here we are, Chapter 3. And yes, no snappy PowerPoint presentations. And no, you won't be looking at me this time, and 2 or 3 minutes into the video, my voice goes completely out of sync. What we're going to be talking about this evening, or on this chapter, is we're going to look at the components of change. There are 3 highlighted by Weinstein. The first is demographics, the hows and whys of population change, culture, the values, religion, and language of a particular people. 3, the third component, is social, human relationships. These components are interrelated and always change together, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes not. So if you'll follow along with me with using your handout, which is available on Blackboard, in this section of Blackboard, in fact, we're going to start with population as units of observation. A human population is defined as one that marries within its own group, occupies a given territory, and is structured along certain social or cultural lines. Those cultural lines are class or religious observance, for example. Populations grow or decline in size as a result of G, which is growth, equals births minus deaths plus in and out migration. In a simpler way of saying it, populations grow or decline in size as a result of changes in birth rates, mortality, and net migration. Birth rates, fertility, and reproduction come next. The number of female children we have, for example, divided by the number of women capable of bearing children, gives us a reproductive rate. In the US, we are heading towards 0. Another part of determining a population size is the mortality rate, which can be affected by the age structure of the group, as well as their health. Improve health and all age groups get bigger. Migration comes next. Who moves and why? Country to city, city to suburbs, Latin Americans, Mexicans, say, to here, other Latin Americans, Latinos, to Mexico, males, or families. For most of human history, the rates of increase or decrease in population size have been caused by things we couldn't control. Disease, famine, drought, floods, as such. And this may seem counterintuitive. Growth rates have been low, and this, as we adapted to a certain place, how many children we had was affected by how many died before adulthood. More food equals more babies. Famine or wars caused decline in population. The Malthusian laws, the ability for a habitat to sustain a population, came into question in the early 1800s with Thomas Malthus, postulating that there always comes a point where population growth is checked by exceeding the food supply. In the last century, we have an increased food production exponentially, but not for everyone. Demographic transition, the roots of global inequality. For Europe and the West, Malthus's laws that food consumption and reproduction rates affect increases and decreases in population no longer apply. We, that is the West, have reduced death rates through invention, social engineering, and government intervention, sanitation, clean water, antibiotics, and accident prevention. In terms of the Industrial Revolution and the European transition, simple controls over food production, simple technologies being available to everyone to boil water, draining swamps between 1750 and 1850 in England, allowed the population to more than double and then take off. Also in the West, we developed fertility control. How many times women have intercourse, how often they become pregnant, and methods to reduce conception, and finally, what is done after a woman becomes pregnant, is called fertility control. All three are still controlled by cultural factors, religious ones, for example, and societal ones, marriage rituals, one child per couple in China, or incentives to have children, such as in the Scandinavian countries today. By and large, however, birth control has become an accepted practice in the West, not so in the third or developing world. In the rest of the world, however, Africa and Latin America, fertility levels, birth rates remain high, while at the same time, death rates are by and large decreasing. Historically, the root cause for the Third World's condition can be laid squarely on Europe or colonial shoulders. European powers took raw materials out of their colonies and invested little in them. So as Europeans became wealthier, they also became healthier and also lived longer through hygienic living. Today, however, third world countries' populations are exploding because of significant declines in the death rate. For the same reason, populations went up in Europe: better sanitation and vaccines. But faster because the technologies are newer and cheaper.